Tematem dzisiejszego programu będzie edukacja domowa. To jest taka forma edukacji, w której rodzice biorą w swoje ręce odpowiedzialność za edukacyjny los swoich dzieci. Good morning, Professor Ray.
Good morning, Dr. Budajczak.
Let me start from introducing you to Polish viewers.
Yes.
Profesor Brian D. Ray jest naukowcem zajmującym się edukacją domową. W USA stopień doktora jest najwyższym stopniem na drabinie akademickiej. Od 35 lat jest czynnym badaczem tego właśnie zjawiska edukacyjnego, jakim jest edukacja domowa, zwana z amerykańska homeschooling. Jest autorem licznych studiów badawczych, także w strategii meta, porównując wyniki badań innych naukowców. Jest biegłym w procesach sądowych, gdzie bronione są prawa rodziców edukacji domowej. Jest ekspertem w mediach występującym w całych Stanach Zjednoczonych i w świecie. Bez wątpienia jest najwybitniejszym badaczem edukacji domowej w dzisiejszym świecie. A cywilnie w powszednich dniach jest mężem, ojcem 8 dzieci, dziadkiem, jak dotąd, 11. Witamy serdecznie na konferencji po raz wtóry na wizycie w naszym kraju. Professor Ray, thank you for accepting our invitation to take part in the conference on homeschooling here in Warszawa, Radość, Warsaw, Joy.
You're welcome, and I'm privileged to be here.
It's a real honor to us. At the very beginning, please try to define shortly what is homeschooling. What is that?
Yes. I like to say it is parent-led, home-based education. So it's led by the parents. It's centered around and based in the home. However, not only the parents are involved, and it is not only at home. So it's led by the parents, but they use and talk with other people. They have other people involved in their lives. It's based around their home and family, but as the children get older, usually they do more and more outside of the home and family. And it is generally privately run. It is not tax funded, generally speaking.
Okay. Where? I mean, in which countries this form of education is the opportunity for all parents?
Yes. I would say it is available available in almost every country. It's hard to list them all, but I know that it's available in the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Brazil, Poland, South Africa, Japan, South Korea. It's available actually in most nations. It's not available in nations where, generally speaking, the governments and the society is more statist. So if they want to control the people more, they do not make it available. So examples would be Germany, Cuba, and some of those kinds of places, and China.
Oh, yeah. I won't be asking about the reasons of those governments that ban homeschooling in their countries, but tell us, please, how is it regulated by the law in the territory of USA and elsewhere?
Yeah. Okay, so the United States is a little bit complicated because we are still the 50 United States of America. So we have 50 different laws or no laws related to homeschooling. So in some states in the United States, if you have a child and if you never hand your child over to public or government schools, then the government schools never have your child. So in some states in America, you are completely free in terms of the education of your child. Some examples would be Texas, Illinois, Idaho, Alaska, Oklahoma. There are several states where parents have the responsibility and authority over their child's education before the state does. In some states, on the other hand, there is some medium amount of control, such as if you're a parent and you're not going to use public school, you're not going to use private school, you notify the government You do not ask for permission, you just notify. And then you might need to do something like keep some records and maybe have your children evaluated or tested a few times during 12 years of schooling. And then in some states that are more statist and they have more government control, they say you have to register. In a few states, in a sense, you get permission or approval, and then there's more control, more testing, and more record keeping with the state. So 50 different states, 50 different ways of doing it, all the way from complete educational freedom to much more state control.
Is the level of regulation by government is connected with the outcomes of homeschooling?
Oh. You know, contrary to what many people think, because some people think if only the government could control something like schooling or education more, then the children would learn more. They would have higher academic achievement. But we know now with empirical evidence, studies that I've done and others have looked at this, that there is no correlation, not even a mathematical pattern between high government control and student achievement or low government control and student achievement. In other words, both in the states where we have much statist control and in the states where there's educational freedom, there is no relationship with children's academic achievement scores in homeschooling. So there's no evidence, there's no argument that more control means more learning.
Yeah. Let me ask a few questions about some important, I think, features or dimensions of homeschooling. Let's start from the motivation. Why do parents choose this option?
Yeah. Many people think there are just one or two reasons, but there are actually many reasons why people homeschool. And now when I'm talking about reasons, I'm talking about all over the world. I'm talking about United States and Australia and Canada and South Korea. People all over the world. It's growing, by the way, all over the world. In no particular order, let me say this. One reason that people want to homeschool is to be able to use different pedagogical approaches to the education of children rather than one standard way that might be in the schools, whether they're the schools of Poland or whether they're schools of America, whether the schools of Japan. There tends to be an approach, one way. And parents are saying, no, there might be different approaches at work. Like educators know, philosophers of education, curriculum experts, they know that there are different ways to teach children. So parents are starting to understand this too. Secondly, parents would like to be able to, it's related to the first one, parents would like to be able to customize or individualize for each child. Again, experts in education know every child is different. Billy might be very good in math. He might be not so good in languages. Susie might be very good in art. She might not be so good in physical sciences. And also one of the children might have a special needs or a learning disability, something like that. And so parents would like to be able to address those differences, strengths, weaknesses, desires, interests, and adapt to those. And that's another reason for homeschooling. Another reason people want to homeschool is that they would rather spend more time as a family and develop relationships between siblings and child to parent, parent to child. And if they can spend more time together, they can work on those relationships and possibly have a stronger family. Parents also tell us that they home educate because the home, generally, not, like I said before, it's not only at home, but when education is centered around the home or family, it's a more comfortable or it's a safer environment. In schools, whether in America or some other nation, oftentimes children are bullied by other students. Sometimes they're bullied by teachers, both psychologically, physically. It's just not a safe environment in a lot of places these days. So that's another reason people homeschool. Parents also tell us that they would like to guide the social interactions of their children rather than just turn them loose into an institution with 28 peers, find out after 12 years how their social development is going, and we know oftentimes it's not so good. So they want to guide their children's social interaction. I would say not control it, but guide it more. Another reason that some people homeschool is that they would like to be able to focus on a particular element of culture with their children, whether it's maybe they want to focus more on history. Maybe they want to focus a little bit more on the ethnic background of the family. It could be those kinds of things. I would say that a last but not least important is that many people homeschool because they would like to, rather than hand their children over to the state schools and let the states teach them values and beliefs and worldview, the parents say, it's my job to teach values, beliefs, and worldview to my children. So that's another reason why people homeschool. And again, that's whether the people are agnostics, atheists, Christians, Jews, New Age. They would like to teach the values and beliefs rather than have the government schools do it. So there are a lot of reasons for homeschooling.
Okay.
Some people homeschool for one main reason, but most people homeschool for various reasons.
You've told us about the academic reason for homeschooling. Is homeschooling really comparable with schooling at educational institutions, public or non-public? Is it possible to do it?
Yeah,
what do empirical evidence say?
Yeah. One reason, again, not the only reason people homeschool is because they want solid academic instruction, solid academic learning for their children. And now we have 35 years of research, 35 years in the modern homeschool movement. By the way, homeschooling is not new. Homeschooling has been going on for thousands of years, and now people are doing it again. So I think that's very important for people to think about. But anyway, back to academics. In many studies in the United States and other places, when children who are homeschooled are given standardized academic achievement tests, on average, they're scoring above the public school average. On average, on standardized tests, they're scoring 15 to 30 percentile points higher than the state school students. Consistently, study after study after study.
Yeah.
Some people are surprised, but I'm not very surprised anymore.
Do parents need an educational license to do homeschooling? Is it needed to have any university education?
I think when you ask needed, I'll give two answers. One is legally, in most places, no, it's not needed. And now a pedagogical answer, when we look at the research evidence, the empirical evidence, and I have and others have looked at this, and we have asked ourselves, within the homeschool community, with parents who have never been state certified compared to parents who have been state certified, is there any difference in their children's academic learning? And the answer is no. No difference, no correlation. And people need to remember, if there's no correlation, it's difficult to make any argument that there is a cause and the effect relationship between this. So for some people, like maybe certified teachers, and I've been a certified teacher, that's a little bit of an insult that they don't need a certification for their children to learn well. No. But for other people, if they stop to think about it, all of the benefits that home-based education children have, it's not surprising that they do well.
Okay.
Yeah.
What then about the main concern of the people in the world? I mean, socialization.
Socialization.
Yeah.
It's the big question, it seems to be, all over the world, in many nations, when people start thinking about home education, people wonder, what about socialization of the children? How are they ever going to learn how to interact well with peers, with other Americans, with other Polish people, with other South Koreans? How will they learn that? And I think, first of all, Dr. Budajczak, that question comes from the fact that for about 6 generations now, most of us have been institutionalized. So we don't even realize it down inside of us. There's this sense that normal life is growing up in an institution with about 25 other people within 1 year of your age, plus one adult who's maybe 20 to 50 years older, that's a normal way of life. And normal is not necessarily the best, but people have to remember that, again, for hundreds and thousands of years before institutional schooling, people were socialized mainly by their family in the context of a local community not in an institution called school. So, first of all, we have to keep in mind history, because that's, I believe, from where that question comes. Now, secondly, let's look at empirical evidence.
Yeah.
And then maybe a little bit about what happens in home education. Empirically, because people have wondered, what about socialization? Many researchers have done studies on it. So they've looked at various secular concepts such as self-concept, self-esteem, family cohesion, ability to just play or interact with other children if you're a child. So they've looked at many different things. And in all of these studies, overall, on average, home-educated children are doing as well and usually better than those who are in institutional schools. So again, there's something about home-based education that seems to develop social awareness, social kindness, social effectiveness. It's somehow happening in a home-based education environment. So that's the empirical evidence. Again, I've written articles on this, others have written articles on this, people can find the empirical evidence. So the third thing I'm thinking about is, well, why would that be? And again, you think about this, it's really basically natural for a baby to be born into a family. And from the very beginning, mom and dad and siblings are interacting with the child.
Yeah.
They're talking to the child. They're teaching him, this is red, that's blue, this is hot, this is cold. If you hit your sister, that's a naughty thing, don't do that. They're being taught these things little by little all along. And at age 5, magically, in history, they did not send them away to be socialized by other people. They kept doing it in the family, in the local neighborhood, in the local stores, in the local activities, and the child got older and older and older. This is the way people have been doing things for hundreds and thousands of years. So it's not surprising that children in home-based education are doing fine. They've been doing fine with that through history.
Yeah. Well, are there any philosophical or fundamental justifications for homeschooling children?
If we think about justifications for, I'm also thinking about justifications against. So let me think for a moment. For, a philosophical argument is that sort of the natural concept, like I just mentioned. Whether you think it's natural from chance or whether you think it's natural from some kind of creator, children are born into a family. They're born into parents. Yeah. They're born into siblings. And for, again, thousands of years, some people would argue longer, this is how children were raised. And they were raised with these social interactions, with the moral interactions, with ethical interactions, with what we now call academic interactions. For many, many, many years, parents have been the main instructors of social skills, reading, writing, arithmetic, how to have values, how to think about religion, how to think about law, how to think about whether to obey the law or disobey the law. This has been going on forever. Yeah. Forever and ever for Homo sapiens. It's been going on.
And against?
And against. An argument would be, one argument might be that, but this cannot be good for the common good. But it's very difficult for those who argue this to define common good. Sure. Because the people who practice home-based education for thousands of years, they cared about the common good. And nobody used to think about this, okay? Yeah. You know, except maybe you go way back, people like Plato. He wanted the state. He wanted the people who think they know better. He wanted the philosopher kings to be in charge of, to have authority over, to have power over how parents raise their children. So that would be a philosophical argument against home education. We know, however, people who believe in classical liberal thought in the sense of freedom of choice, limited civil government to be protected from the power of the government, have believed that parents have the main authority over a child's teaching, training, and instruction. So the argument against homeschooling is usually a statist, more elitist government control argument. Mm-hmm. And then the other arguments, modern arguments are, but we need professional teachers to teach children to learn how to read, write, and arithmetic. However, the modern homeschool movement is a perfect one-shot case study that proves government certified teachers are not needed. So the arguments against are usually philosophical, and they're usually made by people who want the government to have more control over people's lives. That's usually what we see. Or one more thing, not necessarily that they want the government to have more control, but some of these people who argue against homeschooling, some of the scholars, they're not as clear about it as they should be, but they want the government or public schools to be in charge of children's education, because these people who don't prefer homeschooling, they want children to learn their worldview. So if this person is more of a critical theorist or a neo-Marxist or a statist or believes in some kind of different sexual education, they want to have the children in the government schools to learn their values and beliefs and advance those values and beliefs. They do not want the parents to teach the children their values and beliefs. So that's another way to look at it. But in the end, that becomes statism also.
For the end of our meeting, our interview, please try to advise something. Could you do it? Parents that want to start homeschooling, they're thinking about this possibility.
Yeah, I think there are a few key things to think about. One, don't be afraid. You're a parent, and from the moment your child is born, you are homeschooling.
Yeah.
So all parents are homeschoolers to begin with. Their child is young. I talked about this earlier. They feed the child, nurse the child, clothe the child, wash the child, talk with the child, laugh with the child, cry with the child, nurture the child. They're doing all these things. As the child gets a little bit older, they teach the child more advanced things. It's very natural. Say, this is a ring, this is a pen. You write with a pen. Parents do this naturally. That is what happens naturally and in culture. And I think parents need to remember they are home educators. And when the child gets a little older, in most modern Western societies, the child gets to be about 4 or 5, all of a sudden the parents start thinking about, what about formal school? But again, that's only because of modern society. So I just want to tell parents, remember you are a home educator and you have been doing a good job. And if you're diligent and you pay attention to your child, you may continue to home educate instead of sending him or her away to an institutional school. That's the first thing. It's kind of a readjustment of thinking. It's a little different approach or paradigm to thinking. I would say, second of all, if you're interested in home education, for example, in Poland, talk to people who home educate. Get some ideas. Just have conversations. Ask a lot of questions. Talk with veteran homeschoolers. Talk with new homeschoolers. As a part of that, I would say, meet some support systems. Like in the United States, we call them support groups. Or it's a group of people in a town or a city, and they homeschool. Meet these people, talk with them, learn from them. Ask about curriculum, ask about pedagogical approaches, ask about failures, ask about successes, ask about what makes you tired, what makes you happy, what makes things work well in your family, and learn from these people. Another thing is to keep in mind, your particular family is unique. This mom, this dad, or this single parent with this child or these children, that's a unique family. You do not have to do everything like the Budajczak family. You do not have to do everything like the Smith family. You're a unique family, and one of the beauties of home-based, parent-led education is to keep that in mind and work with each child's strengths and abilities and think about that. I'd say one more thing then, in a formal sense, get connected with homeschool support organizations. You can tell them what they are. People here at this conference tell them what they are, but get connected with those organizations so that you have some formal support and some encouragement, maybe reading some articles and those kinds of things. It's very important to do, not only for you as a homeschool family, but also for parental rights and for educational freedom in your nation. It's important to get connected with these organizations. So those would be my main things I say right off the bat.
Thank you very much for the meeting, for the interview. I think it will be really instructive and helpful to Polish parents. Thank you once again.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mark.